I'm looking at Athlons, and I don't necessarily know that this is any groundbreaking stuff, but this comes from an opposing ACC assistant coach, anonymous. This program's really, really talented. As a roster, they might be their best since Jimbo Fisher's title. You always get asked, are they back? Yeah, they might be. They're not one of those top six or so teams. They're not one of those top six or so teams nationally, but they can win this league. Okay. That would be a huge step up for them. They've upgraded at every position at the ones and twos compared to when Mike Norvell got there. There's a pro mentality at the place. You have to take an NFL approach to balancing discipline and motivation. He's put the right kind of discipline back in the program, and schematically, they're sound on both sides. They've inched that along as they've been able to get the talent in place. This could be a breakout season if they're as improved as we think on both lines. This could be the first year in forever where Florida State just looks like they have a Florida State quality offensive line. You get the idea the clouds have parted on all the recruiting problems.
I want to answer that top six question, though. I mean, statement. Like,
Yeah.
I'll give you Ohio State. They've won something recently. I'll give you Bama. They've won something recently. I'll give you Georgia. Even with the turnover and these guys, Alabama losing 10 NFL players, Georgia losing 10. I believe Michigan lost. I mean, not Michigan. Ohio State lost quite a few as well. What I won't give you is LSU, who we've beat. I won't give you. I'm looking at like a ranking. I don't understand. Texas hasn't won since I was in college, and they've been really, really bad lately. So I'm not saying that they won't be improved, but I won't concede to us not being as good as Texas.
Yep.
I won't concede to us not being as good as Michigan, because although Michigan has been to the playoff, they haven't really seen. They've been there. They just showed up. They punched the ticket, but when it's time to perform, they haven't. But I'll even give you Michigan a little bit, but I'm not going to give you USC right now, because USC was basically, I think they were 11-3. We were 10-3.
Their defense is horrible.
Exactly. They've got Caleb Williams, who's awesome, but that Clemson, I think if anybody's watched the games the last 2 years, we've competed with Clemson. I think I could argue that we beat ourselves, not taking anything away from them. It's just not shying away from them. I won't shy away from Notre Dame, which I think while I'm grateful that their coach and I love the opportunity of their coach, I don't think their coach is good, though. Not as good as Brian Kelly was when he was there. I won't concede to Penn State. I won't concede to Oklahoma. I won't concede to Tennessee. There are very few teams that if you told me, James, like these are the top six, these are who our top six are, that just make me say, I don't think we have a chance. Hell, the number 4 team in this ranking, I'm betting that we're going to beat them again. And not just because I'm a homer, but because I bet that I was going to beat them last year when I saw it. I think a lot of things people are using recency bias on Florida State, but using legacy bias on everybody else. Which, if we're going to compare them and we're going to use recency for everybody, I think you have to be able to take it like in true form, especially if, like that anonymous coach said, you believe that this same Florida State team that went 11-3 has improved and gotten better on every aspect of the ball. That would just be my only critique of that statement. Outside of that, everything else seemed to be pretty fair.
In terms of where Florida State stands among the elite, this season is going to be obviously enormous because I saw the improvement last year was remarkable. I saw the best team that they've had since 15 or 16. And now do they take the next steps? They bring almost anybody back. I don't know that there's a school in the country at their level that brought as much talent back as they did. Everybody had significant losses in terms of the kind of programs we're talking about across the board. Until proven otherwise, Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State and Michigan are better programs, but I wouldn't be surprised if Florida State caught one of them or two of them or three of them, or, got themselves into the mix. It's not an unreachable, the gap's not that great necessarily. Then I think, James hit a bunch of the schools out there that I think are on the same tier. and we'll see. Penn State, Clemson, USC, and some others. I'm not going to rank them exactly. I'm just going to put them on a same tier. I think Florida State's on the second tier right now. And there's only a few schools that they can take a back seat to, and they're gonna have the opportunity to prove otherwise. Maybe they'll catch them this year.
Would you put LSU in that same tier?
Oh yeah, I think they're on the same tier. Yep. Oh yeah.
So that's been the biggest question that we've been having over this past couple of, I'd say the past couple of months. We've been getting asked a lot, why are people now favoring LSU to beat Florida State? When it first came out, Florida State was favored by 1 point. Now LSU's favored to win the game by 2.5 at Vegas.
There's a difference between sometimes who wins the game and still making an evaluation of where these teams stand. So, for example, if Florida State walks off the field and they won 38-10 against LSU, then I'm like, that's the better team. It's not even debatable. If they win and it's a solid win, they win 27-17. They had control of the game, still competitive, but Florida State had control of the game, much like they did at times. You know, James has talked about this, and I remember watching every play of that game last year. They played a better football game than LSU. LSU almost stole it at the end, but Florida State was the better team from very early in that game until the final 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But if those teams walk off the field and it's 28-27, I'm going to tell you, well, the team that won the game gets credit for the win, absolutely. But I don't know who's the better team because they could play another 9 times and they could split, the total of the 10 games. So I'm kind of one of those. I look at that. That's my perspective and evaluation of teams is not just who would win if they played, but more so who would win if they played 10 times. Because just about anybody can win a game, unless we're talking about, bringing Boston College into the conversation. But we're talking about the best teams.
Well, I mean, it's possible. We talk about Florida State possibly playing Clemson twice this year. We're going to play them once in the regular season, and our plan is we play them in the ACC championship because we don't plan on them losing another ACC game. I mean, it's very possible that you play LSU twice this year. You play them the first game of the season. They don't lose again. They end up winning their conference of the SEC. They end up in the playoffs. We end up in the playoffs, and it's 2 versus 4, 3, whatever, however it works. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's possible. There's a possibility behind it. I don't necessarily want to play both of those teams twice, but it is possible that it happens because I don't think LSU season's over if they lose to Florida State. I don't think that they're completely out of it.
If you are looking at those two teams playing a second time, and I'm not talking about a Florida State fan or LSU perspective, I'm just talking neutrally, you want LSU to lose the game because Florida State's going to have to win the ACC most likely to be in that playoff. Yep. LSU, shoot, if they win the rest of their games and go play Georgia and lose a close SEC championship game, something like that, that's more likely the scenario that has to happen that Florida State needs to win the ACC, of course.
I mean, it's very possible that you get 2 SEC teams and 1 ACC, and if we do what we're supposed to, and 1 Big Ten team. Or it's possible that 2 Big Ten teams, an SEC team and an ACC team, end up in there. Or if none of us take care of the ACC, then I just don't like seeing a very large amount of one conference in the last bit, which they did their due diligence last year. But TCU wasn't, in my eyes, was it a lucky win that they beat Michigan? No, but I still don't think they should have. To me, the teams that they were fixing to play, I was just like, this doesn't make much sense to me. So many close games, they lost their conference. And then we'll sit here and say that Florida State has to win the ACC to get to the playoffs, but TCU didn't have to.
I think what people got to realize, got to look at is even like, for example, people call Florida's, was it not in 2006? So 2008, the 2008 championship team, one of the best championship teams they ever played, without looking at the fact that they actually 06 and 08, they backdoored their way into the national championship game. not taking anything away from them, but that's also what happened with TCU. Is that it was an incredible weekend of football, and that's the beautiful thing about college is when you think you got stuff wrapped up, you don't have it wrapped up. It makes absolutely no sense. But I actually think that the cure for not having multiple SEC teams or even multiple Big Ten teams is for the Pac-12 to handle their business and send the team over that's a one-loss team at minimum. I think if ACC has a one-loss team, I don't think you'll find a one-loss SEC team in there if everybody else has their conference champion in there. Because I think everybody who should win those have games that are competitive enough. Like for let's say Georgia lose to LSU, even though Georgia is the back-to-back defending national champion, you can't look at Georgia's schedule right now and say a loss to a competent LSU team warrants them to be able to get another opportunity because they would have lost to the only team that they really played based upon what we're looking at right now. Not saying the SEC isn't tough, but what I'm saying is that schedule right now is not like University of Florida schedule or other team schedules. And I do think if LSU, but I don't see anybody beating Georgia. That's just me being honest. But and I see LSU having 2 losses at minimum. But I do think Michigan and Penn State have better teams, and Ohio State has some question marks at quarterback this year. And I seen one person say you got to win your conference first, and I'm like, that's and he had a Michigan thing, which is funny. It's like almost like how Georgia fans started. We're absent for 40 years, and now they're into the convo. Like Michigan, I don't remember Michigan getting an opportunity to really beat Ohio State like that. I remember Ohio State throttling them. So conference, like, you had a lot of conference championships in the leather helmet era, but like lately, that's recency bias. But if we're just looking at what's returning and what's coming up, I do think, though, that it will be a very exciting year for college football, and they're going to do a hell of a job marketing, especially with all the other outside noise and drama surrounding conference realignment. Like, so right now, everybody's talking about Colorado going back to the Big 12 and leaving the Pac-12 and just all these different things that are supposed to be happening with conference realignment on top of NIL. And coaches like Dirkwitz saying stupid things like, I can't believe these athletes are making more than my brother who's a pediatrician who saves lives. Mind you, he makes more than his brother-in-law who's a pediatrician, and he just coaches kids. He doesn't save any lives, but just it's making for a really exciting time for football. I can't wait till Saturday so I can just be watching and tuned in.